So President Biden has 48 hours left. Those aren't my words. We just got some breaking news from a top Democratic donor ready to withhold tens of millions of dollars from Democrats. This follows a number of other top Democratic donors that are also withholding tens of millions of dollars to Democrats unless President Biden drops out of the race. Hey everyone, on this Friday, it's like 101 degrees right now. The heat is really turning up on President Biden. I want to bring you this bit of breaking news that we're hearing from sources today on these Democratic donors. Now, of course, yesterday we reported that I believe, according to my sources, that next week would be the perfect time during the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee for President Biden to step aside, turn over the reins of the presidency to Kamala Harris, or at least make some sort of announcement about that. But the walls are closing in now, and we're seeing that this is accelerating. This seems to be the plan of action. After last night's disastrous NATO press conference, where he referred to Ukrainian criminal Volodymyr Zelensky as Putin.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. You can beat President Putin.
And then also responded to a question about Kamala Harris and called Kamala Harris Vice President Trump.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
Of course, that didn't go over very well. And you could see the faces of his cabinet secretaries, from Lloyd Austin to Secretary Blinken, all of whom, by the way, he hasn't met with as one cabinet meeting we now know since October. He has not held a full cabinet meeting since October 2023, which is unprecedented. So his aides are keeping him cloistered away from even his main staff members, main cabinet members, keeping him cloistered away from people who would want him to step down. Jill Biden keeping him close, and keeping him away from these people. So this is a remarkable moment. I really think that we're going to see more Democratic donors line up now throughout this weekend. But this is the do or die moment for President Biden. Sorry, just making sure I'm not missing my exit. I'm running over to Lowe's to pick up a wrench right now. That I have to fix something, and I need a new wrench. So making sure I'm not making a wrong turn here. God. 100 degrees, it is freaking hot. So I come in for a wrench and I end up buying a whole ratchet set. That's how this works. So what will happen? Let's just kind of walk through the pieces of this and how this is going to unfold over the next few days. So these Democratic donors have said they will withhold this money. They will not support Democratic candidates unless President Biden steps aside. This will have massive, massive reverberating effects down the ticket for Democrats. So you think this is just about President Biden. It's not. In fact, it's not really about him at all. What it's really about are all of these down ticket candidates who would ride the party's coattails from Pennsylvania to Michigan to Ohio. All of these candidates who rely on all of this ad spending at the local television stations. Now, I can tell you from spending 20 years in television, I can tell you firsthand from the general managers of NBC affiliates, CBS affiliates, all of these television stations across the country, it's like a boondoggle for them. All of these political ad spend dollars during campaign season are frankly what keep a lot of these small stations afloat. They look forward to this every 2 years with different Senate candidates running for office, and of course every 4 years with a presidential candidate. So all of these small television stations rely on all of this money. And if Democrats and Democratic donors are going to pull up stakes and not funnel money for campaign spending into these markets where they are contentious markets right now, it will have massive effects for Democratic candidates, not President Biden, not the top of the ticket. This to me is really about the lower part of the ticket. And that's what I'm hearing from my sources on this, that it's not about the top of the ticket. I think in many ways they believe that the top of the ticket is lost. There's no way that Democrats are going to be able to beat President Trump. They already know this. They're making plans as such. So this is about the House of Representatives seats. This is about mayoral elections. This is about local attorney general elections. This is down party tickets that will be massively affected by this. And a lot of these candidates are calling the White House. A lot of these people are in panic mode right now because they will not have the Democratic support from their side to run an effective campaign if the money is not there from all of these top donors. And they get to ride on the coattails. They get to ride on the coattails of President Biden at the top of the ticket. So a lot of times people will, of course, go into the voting booth and they'll just pull the lever for Democrats. And if there's not that enthusiasm, if these voters aren't going out there to pull the lever for President Biden or Kamala Harris or whoever, then all of these down party ticket candidates are affected. So let's play this out. Next week, guys, the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's going to be crazy. And I really believe that the moment will come for President Biden to make this announcement while Republicans are trying to drum up as much support as they possibly can in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's a brilliant move from Democrats. So make sure my microphone is not being blocked here by the seatbelt. So this is a brilliant move by Democrats next week during the Republican National Convention. If you followed politics for any length of time, you know that each party usually goes into a bit of a hibernation mode when the other party is holding their convention. They don't really do a lot of advertising. They don't do a lot of public speeches. They kind of go into hibernation mode. They go on a bit of a vacation, quite honestly. They rethink their campaign. They go into sort of battle vacation mode. And they allow the other party to run their convention. That's just historically been the case. So now, if Democrats want to take the air out of President Trump and the Republicans next week in Milwaukee, what better way to do that than to have some big speeches or big announcements about President Kamala Harris? All of the news coverage, for the first time in history, will have a female president of the United States, a female president of color of the United States.
That's why we're here today, because we have the ability to see what can be, unburdened by what has been, and then to make the possible actually happen.
President Biden stepping down. All of the news coverage, guys, is going to be on President Harris. It's not going to be on random, Republican candidates, Donald Trump Jr. making a speech at the RNC in Milwaukee. It's not. I'm telling you how these news stations are going to cover this. The left media, the corporate left media, is going to be wall-to-wall coverage of President Kamala Harris during the Republican National Convention. And then, in August, President Barack Obama, will be in Chicago, in his home city of Chicago, at the Democratic National Convention towards the end of August. He will give an electrifying speech. If he's one thing, he's a great speaker. I think we can all agree to that, right? He will give an electrifying speech. He will, in fact, probably bring Kamala Harris out on stage. You can see it now, right? You can see it now. Or he will give the speech Wednesday night of the Democratic National Convention. Thursday night, Kamala Harris as the presumptive nominee. Talk about trying to electrify your base. This is it, guys. So President Biden, according to these big multi-millionaire Democratic donors, today, just a few minutes ago, announcing President Biden has 48 hours to get out or they are pulling their money. And other Democratic donors have already followed suit. This is an unbelievable moment. 101 degrees right now. The heat is on here in the dog days of July. So guys, I just wanted to bring this breaking news to you guys. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel. We are off today with our normal live show, but I wanted to bring you this context especially from the local television perspective, because I spent so many years there speaking to these general managers, and I just know how much money they rely on from Republican and Democratic donors to keep the lights on. So this is a really important thing for these down party ticket candidates right now, guys. So guys, have a great rest of your weekend. We're going to be watching this very closely. This is very, very interesting political times in the United States of America. Thank you guys for subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you this weekend, guys. Bye.